In February 1971, fire gutted St. Paul's Cathedral in Burlington, Vermont. The building was a total ruin. The steeple, which was left standing, had to be torn down because it was a public safety hazard. All that remained to be salvaged were the bells and the stone walls.
Dean Kerr, do you have any personal feelings about the loss of the cathedral?
Well, I always feel sad when I lose an old friend. And that's exactly how I feel about St. Paul's. St. Paul's is an old friend to me personally. Many of my friends have, been rectors here, and many of my friends have been associated with this parish. And so they, as well as the building, are part of my life. And therefore, as I look at St. Paul's, a lot of history went up in smoke and fire yesterday afternoon. But I also feel that, this is something like the phoenix rising from the ashes. And I look forward to a new and greater and a better role for St. Paul's in the near future than it's played in the past. Not that anything has been wrong with the past role, but I look for something better always ahead.
The new building had to be multifunctional, and it had to serve the needs of the parish and diocese. It had to be designed in such a way as to make a contribution to the community. A questionnaire was sent to parishioners asking for ideas and recommendations affecting St. Paul's needs and plans for the future. On June 30th, the congregation met to decide whether to move the site of the cathedral. The city block where the cathedral had burned was on the edge of the downtown business district in Burlington. It formed part of a barrier that prevented the downtown urban renewal area from spreading toward the lake. The developers of the urban renewal area had offered to buy the old site. The parish voted approval of the new site for a rebuilt cathedral. The new available site was a few blocks farther from the center of town. There was an excellent view of the lake, and the parcel of land was larger than the old site. The old stone walls of the burned-out cathedral were taken down and brought to the new site with the hope that the stones could be used again. In these demanding and strange times, people dared to dream of new ventures and new directions for the church's life. They found new places where they continued to follow their traditional worship services. They discovered they were part of a larger community of people who were interested and who cared about the future of St. Paul's. They gathered together for picnics and fun as well as for meetings and worship. There came to be a new spirit of hope among the people. In August, the vestry announced an architectural competition. Members of the parish were appointed to committees which worked to determine the needs of the parish. And in January, a jury of experts chose the winning entry, which had been submitted by Burlington Associates, Tom Collins and Bill Henderson. A year later, in August of 1972, there was a groundbreaking ceremony. The new cathedral was to contain adequate spaces for worship services, offices, a parish hall, meeting rooms, and an apartment. The building was to become an organic part of the site, making full use of the top of the hill and the view of the lake. It was to be made of reinforced concrete poured into wooden forms. Bishop Butterfield and Dean Kerr broke the earth with the first shovels, and construction began. forms were built and the concrete was poured into them. The architects explained their choice of design elements thus. This building could be related back to some Romanesque architecture that is completely devoid of detail and just simple stone walls, plain, uniform in color with nice, simple windows. Concrete is less complicated than stone because when we talk about concrete, it's really reinforced concrete, a combination of steel and cement. You can achieve large spans like the nave roof, where that would never be possible in stone. And with stone, you would have to have a vaulted or dome design, or some structural expression which used small units of masonry. We're trying to get a very atmospheric, not mystical, but in some ways dramatic space. If you work with volumes and neutral shapes, then that which takes place within it becomes important and enlightened and heightened by the light quality in the space. Open the door. Inside the cathedral was a dynamic space flooded with light from the outdoors. Reinforced concrete carried the stresses and directed the eye upward. New materials and contemporary concepts were joined to create an honest expression of man's desire to transcend. The phoenix had indeed risen from the ashes. As time passes, it is hoped that the cathedral is becoming a cathedral in the classic sense, a gathering place and a place of inspiration and vision for the people in the community as well as for the cathedral parish.